Good afternoon and welcome to this extremely exciting day. I want to welcome members of the school committee, members of our boards of selectmen, our friends from the Cooperative Bank of Cape Cod, members of the Yarmouth Community and Economic Development Committee, the executive director of the Yarmouth Chamber of Commerce, Corin Egan, Chief Frederickson, Deputy Chief Exaros, and members of the Support Our Schools group, Principal Jenks, our staff, and students and other guests. It's my honor and privilege to welcome you to the ribbon cutting ceremony for our School and Community Information Board. My name is Carol Woodbury, and I am indeed the very, very proud superintendent of the Dennis-Yarmouth Regional School District. Back in 2009, I met a group of concerned retirees. They put a tremendous effort since then to learn all they could about our district. They saw the great education and the programs that are afforded all students attending Dennis-Yarmouth, and they wanted to help. They started out calling their group DY Outreach. Eventually, the group took on the name Support Our Schools. One of the biggest concerns they've had is about how to make sure that the general public knows all about what DY has to offer. To this end, they started a TV show, and to date, we've recorded almost 70 shows on programs within our district. If you know anything about Dennis-Yarmouth, you know that one of our greatest accomplishments is our dedication to the arts, both the visual and performance arts. As the Support Our Schools group became familiar with this success, they wondered why we didn't have a message board in front of our high school to invite the community to the great events. We loved the idea, but of course, as usual, we didn't have the money in our budget to support such a project. So, Support Our Schools member Phil Wick decided to run with this idea. He hounded everybody in town, right, Phil? No, he worked very, very hard with others in the community to secure donations, the donations necessary to bring this project to fruition. I said it's been almost 2 years, but I think maybe it's been a little more than 2 years since the very first meeting at the Cape Cod Cooperative Bank. I had it down in my book as April 25th, 2012. That day we met with Judith Capone, John Falone, and Stephen Peters. And after our meeting, they gave us a short tour of the facility, and we had an opportunity to meet with Joel Kroll, President, CEO, and alumnus of Dennis-Yarmouth Regional School District. At that time, the executive director of the Yarmouth Chamber of Commerce was Bob Dubois, and Mr. Dubois helped secure the commitment of the members of the Yarmouth Community and Economic Development Committee and the Yarmouth Police Department. We're here today because of the persistence and tenacity of these supporters. Perhaps they took a lesson from A.A. Milne's Winnie the Pooh. Rivers know this. There is no hurry. We shall get there someday, and here we are, finally. There are many times when it would have been tempting to give up, but these folks helped us to press on, and we will be forever grateful for their perseverance. Thank you. And now it is my pleasure to introduce Joel Kroll, President of the Cooperative Bank of Cape Cod and Dennis-Yarmouth alumnus. Joel.
Not sure which of those introductions I'm most proud of, actually. I was sharing with Ken Jenks that the last time I remember being in this turf was actually 1966 and 67, because I graduated in 68, and we were planting bulbs as members of the Key Club and Code Club. Ken has assured me those bulbs have since died and do not come up, but new life has sprung, okay, where the bulbs previously existed. I think this is a great day for Carol. I think it's a great day for Ken and for the students that they represent. You know, beyond that, Carol mentioned Phil Wick. You know, Phil started the conversation and just wouldn't let it stop. It didn't mean we wanted to walk away, but, you know, we had a conversation, and I think sometimes you always say, yeah, sure. You know, that won't happen. You know, and you move on. But Phil became the passion to say, no, it's a great idea. And if we all keep focused in the same direction, it'll happen. And it has. We did the easy thing. We gave a significant amount of money because, for those of you who don't know our roots, we were founded in Yarmouth, okay? So this is a little bit of that trip back memory lane. We have significant investment in this community as they have in us. So it's a logical extension of that mutual commitment. My thanks to the Yarmouth Chamber, to the town of Yarmouth, to the police and the police association for the parts that they filled in when others couldn't, because that's truly that sense of community that makes things different. And it's all about, this is all about community. This is not just about communicating what's great about this school and this school district. This is also about sharing what's going on. This is also sharing and making community a greater touch, because in some ways, as we as communities have grown, we've grown a little more diverse than the community that I grew up in. And I don't mean that critically. There were just a long distance between houses that don't exist anymore. But enough about age. My thanks to everyone. But its value is in the value that everyone gleans from it as they see it, learn from it, and we become a better community. So Carol, thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Joel. We sincerely appreciate your help and the support of the Cooperative Bank of Cape Cod in bringing today's dream to a reality. And we're so happy that you could join us today. It's now my pleasure to introduce Corin Egan, representing both the Yarmouth Chamber and the Yarmouth Community and Economic Development Committee, and I understand she's going to introduce some other members.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much for having the Chamber, of course, be part of this great community celebration today. I was fortunate enough to take over for Bob Dubois, who I know is aware that this event's happening today, and I'm sure would have loved to have been here, given that he had a lot of time and commitment that he had brought to this. However, I'm happy that I'm able to be the ambassador for the Chamber, and if we're going to date ourselves, I also graduated from DY back in 1991. And I had a 40 and fabulous plan this year, turning 40, and coming into the Chamber and being able to work on behalf of the town is certainly a huge piece of that for me. So I'm very pleased that I was able to be here, represent our business community, and that there's a wonderful commitment of the town that's shown behind me. One of the things that through the Chamber I am doing is a liaison position on the Community Economic Development Committee, and I've enjoyed very much working with all the folks, and I'm going to take my time and turn it over to the very involved Peter Q. Smith, who is the Community and Economic Development Committee Chair, and also with the Cooperative Bank of Cape Cod. So, and thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. At least it's not snowing. As Corin mentioned, my name is Peter Smith, and I'm the chairman of the Town of Yarmouth Community and Economic Development Committee, also known as CEDC. The CEDC is charged with coordinating economic development activities within the town and broadening the economic base in the community, and trying to foster a sense of community among the residents and businesses in the town. The CEDC is responsible for allocation of funding through the Tourism Revenue Preservation Fund. The Tourism Fund, which is funded by our local rooms tax and meals tax, was created in 2006 and provides a dedicated funding source for promotion and beautification of the town of Yarmouth. As required by the special legislation that created the fund, a portion of the fund is set aside for physical improvements throughout the town. When Bob Dubois, the former executive director of the Yarmouth Chamber of Commerce, raised the concept of a community information board to the committee, he described how the funding of the board would be coming from a variety of sources across members of the town, including the Cooperative Bank of Cape Cod, the Police Department, and other variety of sources, including DY classes. The CEDC members were very receptive to this collaborative effort, and as they understood that the sign would serve multiple purposes, including providing a way to promote special events and to share important information with residents and visitors of the town. To this end, the CEDC demonstrated their support for the Community Information Board with an allocation of $25,000. This information board is one of two of the selectmen sanctioned in the town. The other one is at the chamber office at 428 Route 28 in West Yarmouth. This information board will provide the community and its visitors with an effective way of sharing information, particularly items related to town-funded special events such as the St. Patrick's Day Parade, the summer celebration, and also to be utilized by DY for their important events and by the town to remind residents of, say, example, town meetings and other information that will be useful for residents of the great town of Yarmouth. And I look forward to seeing the sign in action. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Corin, and also Mr. Smith for joining us today. Thank you to your committee, the Yarmouth Community Development Committee, and to the Chamber for their contribution. We look forward to the continued partnership. And another partner that did provide some funding from a grant for the project was the Yarmouth Police Department. So next I welcome Chief Frank Frederickson to the podium to share some of his thoughts.
Good afternoon. We're getting accolades for the police department. I just want you to know that it's the town of Yarmouth that provided the funding for this. When I took over as chief, the emergency management budget for the town was $1,000 a year. Woefully inadequate. So we lobbied with the town administrator to put some money towards emergency management, which we thought was appropriate. And fortunately, it was given to me to administer. And when the thought, Phil Wick came to me and demanded that I give him some of that money, I said, yes, sir. I couldn't think of a better place to put the money because of not only the announcements that you need on a daily basis of running the school in the town, but DY also serves as the regional shelter. So there's a lot of public information regarding that, which ties into emergency management, and it's been very good. And what's really interesting is what you can learn when you get involved in a project. Did anybody actually realize that we could only have 2 of these throughout the entire town? Who had the foresight to put that in the zoning? Who's responsible? You did. Okay. Thank you. Okay. But anyway, this is a great opportunity to show how teamwork can come together and make a better community. And from the police department, we are committed to making Yarmouth the safest community in the region, and this is a small thread of fabric that will put it all together for us and be another piece to add. Thank you very much.
We appreciate your assistance for the project and certainly your support and ongoing collaboration, which we have a very close partnership with both of our police departments. Now I'd like to welcome to the podium Phil Wick, our community supporter and head of persistence.
We'll take care of you.
You know, a really wonderful thing happened to me on the way to this ribbon cutting ceremony. I got a call from Bob Dubois. Bob and I developed a very special friendship, I think, during this whole process. And I certainly want to give him most of the credit for doing most of the detail work. In fact, Chief Frederickson lied when he blamed me for nagging him. It was Dubois, and you know it, Frank. It's kind of interesting. The reason I think that we waited so long to have this ribbon cutting ceremony was we wanted to see how well this thing would withstand Cape Cod blizzards, and it's held up very well. One of the things that I learned in the process is that dolphins have proprietary rights, and you have to be very, very careful about the logo that you use, otherwise you'll have the Miami Dolphins and you know, some of the sea worlds on your back and so forth. So that took a little bit of doing. So it was certainly a work in progress. But I would just like to echo Joel Kroll's words in terms of this was a community effort, and the school really is the hub of a community, and I think what this represents is a community coming together and realizing that certainly having this kind of a device to just alert the community to not only events at the school but to emergencies that happen, whether they're weather or other kinds of emergencies. And also, you know, it'll be a nice thing for the YD Red Sox to be able to broadcast their games on. So I would like to thank all of those that bore with, I refer to myself as the nag in the process, but it worked out well for everybody, and I thank you for your cooperation.
Thanks, Phil. Certainly our schools couldn't do it without folks like you, other members of our community, and support our schools. And we certainly appreciate, we feel that you're a shining example of when it takes a village to raise a child becomes an action rather than just a nice saying. It now gives me great pleasure to introduce Hannah Deppen, DY's Student Government President. Hannah?
I'd like to thank everyone for being here today. All the individuals and community members in the classes of 2009 and 2013 that helped to make this possible. We have a lot going on at DY, and from a student's perspective, this sign is really, really going to help us. We have a football team that played at Gillette last fall. We have an award-winning marching band and color guard. We have an art club. We have countless community service clubs that are always active and always busy. I read the announcements every morning, and just this week we've had announcements about the annual Battle of the Bands concert that all the students love, and it will be great to have even more people be able to be involved. Anyone that is involved with our school knows how vibrant and active and multi-talented our students are. And I know from what I've heard today, so much planning and work has gone into this, and I know I speak for myself and for all the students that we're very grateful for everything you have done. Thank you.
Thank you, Hannah. You represent Dennis-Yarmouth well. You and your fellow students are the reason for our work. And this is just a small sample of what you heard here today. These students are in the jazz band and many other musical groups, I might add, and so we appreciate them being here as well. So now it is my distinct pleasure to introduce you to the principal of this great school, Principal Ken Jenks.
Clearly, I'll echo everyone's thoughts. You know, this was a team effort. I remember the class president in the class of 2009 saying, if we leave $1,000, will you guys build a sign? I said, sure, I think it will take a little more than $1,000, but we'll start working on the sign. So 5 years later, incredible teamwork. You know, I work with young people all day long. It's a phenomenal experience. I often tell people, I really do have the best job in the world. It can be stressful sometimes, but no matter what's going on, I can walk 50 feet from my office in any direction and see incredible young people, incredible things going on. The sign is a sign, and I can't wait till we start advertising all kinds of activities. For me, really, it's a symbol though too. You know, I worry sometimes younger generations really don't understand older folks, myself included. They're too busy being young, and that's what's supposed to happen. And often in our community, older folks don't necessarily understand young people. About 14% of a typical community has students in school at any given time. So that means about 86% of the people in our community don't have a link to us. They're not getting newsletters, or they're not looking at our website probably. This sign will be phenomenal for us to hopefully bridge that with the generations a little. Invite people in. Here's all the things that are going on in our school. And as people drive down Station Ave, hopefully they'll see that and say, wow, you know, let's go check out that concert, or the fireworks that'll be on June 27th, or those community activities. And talk about perfect symbolism. We're in school for about 185 days a year. There's 180 days the community will be using the sign as well. Talk about an equal partnership, a real symbol of us working together, uniting our generations, bringing our communities together, and it's always going to be about good things. No one will ever see a bad message on that sign. So I thank everyone for coming together, putting in that groundwork to make this happen. On behalf of our students, our faculty, our staff, our families, thank you everyone. Thank you.
I would also be remiss not to thank the members of our Maintenance and Grounds Department who got everything set up for us here today. Thank you so much, Mr. Jenks. And again, although he's not out here, Mr. Pendleton, our band director, a phenomenal young man, and he does a lot for our students. And I want to thank the department heads who came here today, because your partnership with us means a great deal to me. So thank you. Now we're going to have the official ribbon cutting, and then, yes?
Just one thing. I forgot to tell you, Bob Dubois told me to tell you that he's wearing his Dolphins DY sweatshirt in Indiana.
Excellent, excellent. Couldn't ask for more. We're going to have the official ribbon cutting, and then you're invited back to our library for some refreshments. Thank you all so very much for being here today and for making this moment a reality. You are the village that is raising our children. So I'd like to have all of our guest speakers come up and go behind the ribbon, and we'll have the ribbon cutting. We thought we would put our student in the center and let the student cut the ribbon, if that's okay with the adults.
Sounds fair.
All right, right in the center. Move in for the nice pictures. Nice and close.
Okay. Hang on 1 second. Main office, would you turn on the information board?
Oh, beautiful. Good job, Joel.
All right.
You'll get it.
Perseverance pays.
Please join us in the library.
Very well done. Thank you.
I want it by myself.
You